don't know if it's Dame Sarr or Dame Sarr. I've been saying Dame for like weeks, but he's an 18-year-old Italian prospect, stud, gonna be a great college basketball player, and it seems like that's what's happening. We talked about him to Illinois last week, and it was trending towards Illinois. Well, now it's formally trending towards Illinois. Rivals and On3 have submitted formal predictions in the last week that Sarr will commit to Illinois. On3, I believe it was Tipton himself wrote up the article, and Joe Tipton, if he's reporting where a player's going, that's obviously a very sizable, noteworthy thing in college basketball recruiting. There are some rumblings. I did a little asking, like, hey, what's the timing on this? When are we hearing this? One thing I would just throw out, not reporting this, but like something people have been asking about behind the scenes is is Sarr coming dependent on Will Riley leaving? And like, do we actually have to see that cross the finish line? Because I think, by all indications, Sarr is wanting to commit to Illinois and telling people he's committing to Illinois under the presumption that he's taking the Will Riley role. And look, there's still a world where Illinois pays a bunch of money to get Will Riley back for year two. I know Illinois fans certainly want that. So I think that still remains to be seen. And maybe, I don't know, I'm speculating, but if everyone's saying, yeah, Illinois is coming, but there isn't a commitment yet or a commitment date set, maybe we're just waiting for some clarity on what exactly happens with Will Riley's role. But either way, for Illinois fans, great news that the recruiting leaders in the industry are saying that Sarr will commit to Illinois and formal predictions are being made. Are you surprised by any of this, Dion?
No, I think it's I will. I mean, I guess the only thing I'd be kind of surprised by is if it's dependent upon Will Riley. I think they could kind of play together. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think Will Riley is going to be like a super big difference maker to his ability to play. He's Dame to me though. You know what Mark Jackson say? Mama call him Dame. Mama call him Dame. I have this new saying in my life because I get names wrong all the time. Dion think it's Dame. It is Dame. You know what I mean? Like it's just like whatever pops in his brain first. That's what I'm rocking with moving forward. I'm not going back and forth. So he also just sounds better as a Dame. Um, I mean, this kid can hoop though. Like that's the thing. Like this kid can hoop. That's where the Will Riley stuff surprises me because I genuinely believe like put him on any roster. I don't think Dame has to worry about getting minutes by any means.
Yeah, and I wonder how much is true on the Riley stuff. I do think, like, in general, for international prospects to be coming over to Illinois a bunch, I feel like they have to feel like they're stepping into wide open roles. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Sarr would be committing to Illinois if he doesn't think he's like a featured option. And the reality is, you play the wing. Will Riley plays the wing. Will Riley also spent the first 3 months of this year coming off the bench. Now, obviously, Illinois still has a good reputation in Illinois circle or in international circles, but like, if I were like an international agent or an advisor, I would be asking to the Illinois staff, like, hey, how come the Canadian kid came off the bench for 3 months behind Humrickhouse?
Yeah.
And Illinois wouldn't really have much of an answer for it. So, look, he still played a lot of minutes and he slumped along the way. That would probably be the answer. But to me, I do think it's different for Sarr if Riley is in the fold because that might mean directly that Sarr is relegated to a bench role. Could they play together? Yeah, definitely they could. But I don't know. I think the idea of Sarr committing to Illinois, much like Dusty May's been pitching bigs on like, hey, we're losing our two big men. You want to think you're stepping into a wide open arena, and it becomes wide open if Will Riley really leaves for the NBA.
No, I agree with that. I what I will say though that I think is interesting, and I was thinking about this a little last night because all the European influx into college basketball is interesting to me. Um, Part of the reason Illinois has such a good opportunity to get these European players is because of the Chicago International Airport too. And I think the ability to get in and out of America when you're in the big cities, and Illinois fans don't have to remind me, Champaign isn't in Chicago. I've conceded that fact. It took me a little while, but I'm willing to concede it's not. But it's close enough to where it's like, how many collegiate campuses are that close to a straight shot flight? right? Like you have the Bay Area schools with San Francisco, you have the LA schools, and then you have Illinois, and then maybe Miami and Atlanta. But like for the most part, most schools are going to be in areas where they would have to have 2 or 3 layovers. It's not very easy for their family to get in. It's not very easy for them to leave. It makes it almost impossible for them to go home for like a winter break where it's like a 2 week break and you only really get like 10 days, but you spend 3 of it traveling. So I feel like Illinois has a huge leg up with a lot of these schools in terms of getting Dame or any other star European player. Um, if Brad Underwood does the right things, though, and I think that the what you mentioned about Will Riley being benched, like how much is that going to hurt him in inner circles? Not just with international recruits, but like if you're any 5 star level recruit, right? Like you have to be looking at that. Like he got benched for who again? Like Benham Rickhouse and them were out there. Like it's not like he was being. It's not like he was at Duke and he got benched for Isaiah Evans. He got benched for guys that will not play at the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I mean it feels inevitable that Sarr commits to Illinois. I do take that as a sign that like okay, maybe Will Riley's leaving in a way that we don't know. Which shouldn't be a crazy surprise given Riley's pedigree and who he is as a player and what he wants to be. Like that guy will get drafted even though he didn't shoot it well this year. He is still highly likely to get a good draft spot. So, if it were up to you, Dion, question for you.
Yeah.
You could get year two of Will Riley. You could get year one of Sarr. You can't get both. Which one do you want?
So I'm a 5 star guy. Like whether I'm a recruiter or a coach, 5 star, I'm a 5 star recruit or I'm a coach that recruits 5 stars. If you do the 5 star thing the way I would do the 5 star thing, you want one and dones. I think the only guy who could return to his school and it not be like, why is he back, is Cooper Flag. If Cooper Flag returned to Duke, it doesn't hurt Shire on the recruiting trails. But if Will Riley goes back to Illinois, and Kasparis obviously will not go back to Illinois. But hypothetically, if Kasparis went back to Illinois, I think you're gonna have to explain that to guys in the upcoming class of like, hey, I did bench Will Riley for a month. I did kind of tank his draft stock a little bit. And then now he had to return. So I think I would take the one and done. I'm gonna take Dame. And then I'm gonna parlay it into 2 more 5 stars in the upcoming classes.
Here's the one thing I would say. I say it all the time, going back to the summer, going back years at this point. The most valuable thing in college basketball is an NBA player who returns for a second season. It is time and time again the teams that get an extra year from a guy that didn't have to give them an extra year benefit from it. I think even looking through this year's team, now look, they weren't like lottery pick types, but Janai Broome did not have to return to Auburn. Tyrese Proctor did not have to return to Duke. And those guys are playing pivotal roles on teams that are going to make huge runs. I think you think back to championship years the last couple years. Donovan Clingan did not have to return to UConn for year two. Zach Edey did not have to return for year four for National Player of the Year. The best teams sort of get that extra year from someone. So I think Sarr's fantastic, and it's a very fair argument like which player would be better, the Will Riley we saw this year or the Sarr that we will see next year. But if you're given the option, you can only get one, you should absolutely take Will Riley year two because there will be a level of comfortability, maybe some growth from a guy within the system he already knows that I just think would exceed really any international prospect that's coming in, unless it's the very, very top of the top. And respectfully to Sarr, he's great. He looks like a stud. I think he'd be a fringe 5 star kid. I don't think he's going to immediately come in and exceed what Will Riley's production has been in a massively meaningful way. So if I were Illinois, I don't know if this is the prompt. If it was the toss up, I would spend my money on Will Riley and not pivot to a different player unless you know Will Riley's gone.
My only fear with Will Riley is the biggest difference between him and like the names you mentioned are like the names you mentioned were campus guys. Will
Yeah.
Riley is an off-campus guy who plays for Illinois. And my only fear with bringing Will Riley back is I don't know, like he would be coming. I don't think he would want to be back. Um, could he be back at Illinois? I definitely think so. But like, I think if he were to come back, it definitely could work. I think it also could explode a little bit in your face where it's like this kid absolutely wanted to be in the NBA. And the reason he's back is our fault. And he probably feels some type of way about that.
Yeah, I just trust Underwood and the Illinois program enough to survive that. But it could be like Mackenzie Mbako-ish, right? Like, oh, does this kid really even want to be here? And then he comes back and he doesn't even have draft stock a year later. Riley's also pretty young, I believe. So like, I don't know. He's still got a lot of growth left to do, but the reality is, I think this prompt that I gave you, while it's fun to talk about, is probably not the prompt that's going on. I don't think Illinois is deciding between Will Riley or Sarr. I think that's because Will Riley's making his own decision, which is what makes Sarr become a lot more valuable here.
That's what makes me fear him coming back too, right? Like Illinois doesn't have any involvement in his decision. That's Will Riley's very independent from the college. Also, just want to throw this out there. I mean, they could get Rickhouse back year two. That's an NBA guy returning. He was on boards.
They can get him back, and Brad is saying they will get him back. We did a video on that this morning, so they're going to turn over every stone per Brad Underwood to try and bring Benham Rickhouse back.
All Underwood has to do is watch our short from a month ago where I laid out how NAIA isn't regulated by the NCAA. That's the only stone he has to turn. You could get three more. Hire me, Brad. I'll represent you in court.
Please don't do that to our Illinois fans. They don't need 3 more years of Benham Rickhouse.